Welcome to part 2 of our mindset series. In the first part, we went ahead and visited 12,000 years of history to understand the evolution into systems thinking. So as we get started here, we wanted to share some perspective and help us get primed for the depth of our talk this evening. We wanted to share with you words from Maya Angelou, who is an American and world-renowned poet, author, and civil rights activist, among many other talents. In this clip that we're going to be sharing, she does use references to God. So if that's a trigger for you, we just want to allow you to replace that with all the children of the earth, or understanding that deep down we all want the same thing, which is to be safe, secure, loved, and feel like we belong.
If I think of my life as a class and what I've really learned, I've learned a few things. First, I'm aware that I'm a child of God. It's such an amazing understanding to think that the it, which made fleas and mountains and rivers and stars, made me. What I pray for is humility, to know that there's something greater than I. Then I have to know that the brute, the bigot, and the batterer are all children of God, whether they know it or not. And I'm supposed to treat them accordingly. And it's hard, and I blow it all the time.
Mongrel class of people.
I'd like everybody to think of a statement by Terence. The statement is, I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. If you can internalize the least portion of that, you will never be able to say of an act, a criminal act, or I couldn't do that. No matter how heinous the crime, if a human being did it, you have to say, I have in me all the components that are in her or in him. I intend to use my energies constructively as opposed to destructively. If you can do that about the negative, just think what you can do about the positive. If a human being dreams a great dream, dares to love somebody, if a human being dares to be Martin King or Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Malcolm X, if a human being dares to be bigger than the condition into which she or he was born, it means so can you. And so you can try to stretch yourself. So you can internalize, homo sum, humani nihila me alienum puto. I am a human being. Nothing human can be alien to me. That's one thing I'm learning.
It's such a great emotional center to transition in our talk tonight on the places of truth and understanding one another's perspectives. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kelly to introduce our speaker.
Yeah, thanks, Jean Marie. That was a lovely introduction. I want to transition and to tell you guys about how the night's going to go. So we'll be having Q&A intervals throughout Mauricio's presentation. And just like last time, if you attended our last event, feel free to throw any comments, thoughts, questions in the chat, and we'll try to address them accordingly. We might not have enough time to address all of the questions, but if you stick around during our after party, then we can possibly hit those questions that we weren't able to during the event time. We're sending an example in the chat right now, just so you can see what that looks like. Without further ado, I'll introduce our speaker for today. So if you're not aware of who this lovely man is already, he is a service design graduate program coordinator and a professor of service design at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and he is also an associate design researcher at LiveWork. He holds the title of group lead of the Service Design Network Academic Task Force. And as mentioned from before, he's a jack of all trades. So with no further ado, Mauricio, take the stage.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Kelly, Asa, Jean-Marie, Maria, and Shreya for setting this lovely opportunity for us to discuss a little bit about postmodernity and service design, okay, and what's happening today. So without further ado, I'm gonna share my screen and we can start right away. Welcome to the Places of Truth discussion. This is, and we discussed last week, we're going through a Russian doll-like structure. We first discussed the outer layer as postmodernity. Today, we understand a little bit more about this systemic perspective of reality by understanding a little bit of the concept of places of truth. And then next week, we finally get to the structure, to actually the foundations that are guiding this exploration, which are knowledge and human interest based on the work of Jürgen Habermas. Okay. Like last week, no safety net. I can't assure that we will be able to understand everything, and that everything that will be discussed here will be the most perfect version of the touch upon issues. But the most important aspect is, and I want to make this very, very a strong point on here. Anything that will be said today and throughout this series needs to include everyone that is listening here. If you feel excluded or offended, please raise your voice, send a message, we stop and we discuss, because whatever we're trying to construct here will only be valid if we manage to include everyone in the discussion, okay? So there's no way that you would feel offended or excluded in the discussion that will follow, because if you do, what I said is not valid, okay? So just a little recap from last week. We talked about postmodernity with the intent of understanding the current mindset that we have. I tend to use this metaphor, the elephant in the dark room, and we need to talk about this, okay? Everything that we see, the way we perceive the world is through a mindset. It's a filter. And the more you know about your filters, explicitly conscious of your filters, the easier will be for you to change. Okay, so mindset in our definition here is the process of filtration that we all rely upon to deal with the complexity that the environment around us is, right? So the more you understand your mindset, the better you are equipped to understand others. And um, if you remember last week, we discussed about Plato's quote that there's nothing more important uh, than understand yourself in order to be able to understand what's happening around you. This is what Jean-Marie mentioned at the beginning. We went through 12,000 years of history through these three paradigms. A first one, we that lasted from 12,000 years ago to 1500s to 500 years ago, was our journey to understand the physical world. And in order to be able to dialogue, to have a dialogue with the physical world, we have to rely on abstractions. And I can't talk to a tree or a stone or metal. So we had to develop words and narratives to be able to talk with the physical world. These led us to create religion, and that we anthropomorphize everything. We end up naming these words, God. With the crisis that came with the Enlightenment, we decided that this concept of God was dead. Not that God is dead, but the concept itself was not respected as it was before. And we understood that we controlled everything. And the most interesting achievement was the scientific revolution that led to the Industrial Revolution, that led to the Second World War. We will discuss a little bit more about this, which opened, at the end of the Second World War, started what we can call postmodernity. Again, the same way that we killed, quote unquote, nature, then we killed God. With postmodernity, we kill humans. Humans were not respectable, quote unquote, anymore. We became just one element in the systems. And the most interesting concept of this time is the puncto et equilibrium, to understand us, right? Of course, after 12,000 years of history under the pre-modern tree, the modern with 500 years grew under this shadow, and then the postmodern is growing under both of these shadows. So you don't have a very clear cut between them. It's they intertwined and influence each other. You can see from Gobekli Tepe to Homo Vitruviano to the Turing machine, there are many influences that we will try to untangle. Untangling rationality. We will try to understand these three paradigms and explore them, and then put them back together. Okay. One of the examples that we mentioned was, this is a very illustrative quote or expression that shows this. We tend to look for processes and methods, right? Abstract processes that will enable us to control. This is modern, of our control our actions in this uncertain time, and this is the perspective from postmodernity. So I guess we all related to this quote at some point, and we will try to understand better what are these three paradigms that we call so often to understand the world around us. But anyway, when we look back, what we see actually, so the world didn't change, the physical world didn't change, the events didn't change. Um, as we changed our paradigms, we first thought that everything had an order, an abstract order, right? And our goal was just to discover this order. Then we understood, or our paradigm made us believe that we could give or impose order to things. So we were the source of order. And then after the Second World War, we understood that nobody was controlling anything. And looking back throughout the whole history of humankind, what we see is just systems based on the postmodern paradigm that have periods of equilibrium or stasis and broken by disruptions that are this punctuation, right? So this is the kind of underlying order of the human life on Earth, okay? And again, using this beautiful metaphor from Nietzsche, so we have some, he says that sometimes the lightning strikes and the thunder didn't reach us soon. And this delay between the lightning striking and the thunder, the sound of the thunder reaching us, kind of illustrates the difference why we say that postmodernity started in 1945, and still today we have people not understanding or still believing that they can control things, right? So this we will discuss about these overlapping paradigms. But basically, this is the punctuated equilibrium, the process, right? And so we have long periods of equilibrium, which is not static, right? It's in equilibrium. The thing fluctuates, but it's equilibrium. It's not being stopped. And punctuated by disruption that change everything. And the important thing to know is that at the end of the previous earthquake, the next starts, okay? So during this equilibrium, something is building up. One example that we can see, and if we have time, we can discuss a little bit, is like the economic business cycle. There's always a crisis, and then there's a time, a period of routine. And based on Schumpeter's work in 1927, then another crisis happened. So this is punctuated equilibrium. Several researchers suggest that our lives happen like this. The individual lives, everything that is complex tend to behave like this. For just an example, we had in 2018, Donald Trump saying, well, he would give himself an A+, and he was swimming peacefully, not knowing that punctuation, pandemic, depression, racism, the whole thing that happened was about to hit. And but this is not a surprise. From this punctuated equilibrium, this is something expected. Okay, and it's still a very modernistic, modern quote. It makes sense from a modern perspective that you are in control, that you are the best. But what punctuated equilibrium tells us or teaches us is that whenever you feel that you are in control, is just because the system is in equilibrium. Okay, so the privileges that we tend to see different people have in society, they just exert use or act into this privilege because their system is in equilibrium. The soon the punctuation occurs, everything falls apart, and we discover that we are not controlling. We'll be carrying. We were being carried by the system. Okay. Oh, and we end up last week with a question, right? So again, this is a classic question. It happens in several philosophy books that deals with death. So again, please, I apologize if you're going through this event or situation now, but the question is, you've been told by a doctor that you're facing a terrible illness and it's a life and death situation and you must act now. And I suggest that each one of you would reflect on this, not telling anyone, not writing anywhere, but just a personal reflection. And basically, there are three ways to face this situation. Okay, the pre-modern would be just doing nothing. There is an order. This order is beyond me. Either if you believe in God or, but anyway, there's an order beyond me, and I have just to give myself to my destiny. There's no way or reason to fight, and you find a lot of people around you that believe in this. So it's not something that is gone, it's still with us. One example that we can illustrate is Bob Marley. He had a minor wound on one of his foot, and he said, no, if God wants me here, I will be healed. If not, I'm gonna die. So this is a very pre-modern perspective. There's an order beyond me. I don't know this order, but it's there, and let the order impose itself. If you're modern, the first thing that you will do is run and find another human that will put your body into order again. So modern mind, the modern mindset thinks and believes that humans can control all and a human will fix you. Okay? And there's no point in obeying or waiting for the revealing of this abstract order. No, I will control my destiny. So this is a very modern perspective. And the third one is the postmodern. The postmodern accepts that there's some kind of abstract order, accept that a human could maybe fix you, and believes in several things. And one of the the conclusions that you might have when you see the postmodern mindset is that this person that believes in this abstract order and in the human power actually doesn't believe in anything, right? Because if you believe that there's an order, you wouldn't challenge this order. If you believe that the humans could fix you, you wouldn't reach out for the order. But the what you call the nihilist, right? People that don't believe in anything because they believe in everything. Actually, they don't believe in anything. And we will discuss a little bit about this. And it's a very humbling perspective that postmodernity offers us. And we will have the chance to discuss. I hope this was clear enough for us to understand. If you have reflections, please, about this, if you want to address, for me to address any kind of question or reflections, write the chat, right, Jean-Marie and Kelly?
Yes. If you have reflections for anything Mauricio just presented, and thanks, Mauricio, for giving us that overview of the last talk. If you weren't able to make it, it's a nice recap as we go into the next section. I also want to reiterate, since this talk might be a bit heavy and very enriching dialogue, so we want you to reference the chat if there's any other questions or you can't seem to follow along, because there's some advocates in the chat that love to add to the conversation, and we appreciate that. So feel free to refer to the chat to help aid the conversations as we're going through the presentation today.
Awesome. So far, so good. Everybody, okay?
Awesome.
Awesome. Perfect. So let's go today to discuss places of truth, okay? So I'm gonna draw some very questionable parallel, okay? In that sense, again, I'm just clarifying that there's nothing that I'm saying here that is carved into stone. It's a patchwork of several researchers and philosophers. So there's no need to respect in the way that you should feel entitled to question whatever you think makes sense to you, okay? So first, just let me connect, opening I love this quote from Nietzsche that says that life is nothing but a path to knowledge. And I was very pleased to see the video that Kelly and Jean-Marie presented with the magnificent Maya, and thinking, and she's kind of referring, she's not referring, she doesn't need to refer, but she's agreeing with Nietzsche when she says that life, I think of my life as a class, and what I've really learned, I've learned a few things first, and Nietzsche says something like this, like life is nothing but a path to knowledge, okay? So let's try to understand, let's try to acquire a little bit more of knowledge dealing with truth, okay? What is truth? So the first, let's try to define truth from a very practical term. Truth is any idea you have in your mind, okay, about the world you perceive. So you look at the world and the world corresponds, the way you perceive the world corresponds to what you have in your mind. This is truth, okay? So very broad strokes, what you see around you that connects to what you know, it's truth. Okay. And one of the interesting examples, we have two here, is the sun and the earth. And we will discuss a little bit about this. And the truth as an umbrella concept has two main theories that explain what is truth. One is kind of what I just told you, the correspondence theory, which is exactly this. Whatever perception you have of reality that corresponds to the idea you have about it is truth. So you see things around you, you see people saying the same things, and it's true. So in this example with the planetary system or the relationship between the Earth and the sun, I don't feel that I'm moving, neither my family, my friends, they don't feel moving. When I look to the sky, the sun seems to be moving. So truth is the sun rotates around the earth. Completely, we believed in this for thousands of years, and this was truth. Okay? Nothing wrong with this. If I believe that the earth is flat, I look around me, I see a flat surface, and my friends and everything around me and people around me tell me, yes, the earth is flat, and it's true. Okay? So this is the correspondence theory of truth. The other one, there are many, but the two main ones are the coherence theory. The coherence is you tell or you know that something is truth only if it is the whole complete truth. Every information that you can gather from the people around you, from measurements, from observation, every element needs to be coherent to each other. Okay? So this is a more complex way of assessing reality, and most of us, okay, we are under the correspondence theory of truth. Okay, we never saw the earth rotating around the sun. We were told that the earth rotates around the sun. Okay, so we are here. Scientists, people that we trust, tell us that the earth rotates around the sun and not otherwise. But I never saw. I don't have measurement. I never measured this. And so we are under the correspondence theory of truth, which is very fragile. Okay. And the same thing was 2000 years ago. An authority came to me and said something. In this case, could be a religious person, and told me that reality is XYZ, and because this person has the authority, I would believe. Okay, so we tend to think ourselves that we are under the coherence, although the society as a whole should be under the coherence theory of truth. Most of us actually we live under the correspondence. Okay, so we're not that accurate or we don't have time, right? You have to measure everything. So we most of the time accept or live under the correspondence. And this becomes belief, right? So belief means to love intensively. And if you believe in science, but you're not a scientist, you love science intensively. And to believe is to trust that you are not deceiving yourself about being rational, okay? So if I believe that the earth is flat, I believe that I'm being rational and that the objective reality that I see around me, the intersubjective reality, that what people tell me and what do I believe, truthfulness, let's say, they are in coherence, other in terms of the planetary system. If you think that the Earth uh, um, is static and the sun rotates, which every time that I look at the sky, I see this. I don't see the Earth rotating, I see the sun rotating, okay? So this would be truth. And there are several elements to consider in terms of what is it, right? The true is, especially in terms of fact, is something that you perceive as right or not wrong or correct. Okay, if you tell me that you see that the um, sun rotates around the Earth, I think it's correct. Every time that I look up, yeah, that's exactly what I see. So it seems to me truthfulness, the quality of being honest and not containing or telling lies. I can see that I'm not moving, the Earth is moving. There's no problem. And it's also right, because when I have people around me that say the same thing, yeah, we are all agreeing upon this. So it's something that is right. Okay. This reflection is interesting especially for designers and designers that need to understand other people, to see that the difference between us that believe that the Earth is rounded and the ones that believe that the Earth is flat is not that big, right? We are still, I've never measured the Earth. It might be just a optical illusion that we see the Earth bending, but it might be flat. Okay, just because I consider my sources more valid than the sources of the people that don't, that believe that the Earth is flat, it's still just a belief, right? So it's very humbling to understand that, okay, and powerful too, because if I have to show to someone how that the Earth is not flat, I need to move more pieces. I know which pieces, and we'll be discussing about this, I need to move in order to make this person change reality. Because if any one of these elements is lacking, the person will question the belief he or she has. Okay, and then this brings us to a point that is interesting, and Hannah Arendt makes this all the time. That's not important to discuss what's truth or what's true or not. Okay, what is important is to understand why someone believes that the Earth is flat, what this person is gaining from this, and what am I gaining for believing that the Earth is round. Okay, so it's way more the concern that we have to discuss what is true or what is not is a very religious or pre-modern concern. From a postmodern perspective, I need to understand why you believe in this and not what do you believe in, right? Another example, just so you can assess if you live under the correspondence, the correspondence theory or under the coherence theory. I would ask you, let me know, can we just say thumbs up if you know why is the sky dark at night? Do you know why is the sky is dark at night? Yes? You all know? Okay, this is a question that was made not exactly like this, but the initial question was made more than 400 years ago, and it took us 400 years to answer this question. And most of the people, they don't know the answer. I'm very pleased to know that all of you know why the sky is dark at night. Okay, I'm not answering. I want you to check, if you have time, check if your answer is under the correspondence theory, just because someone told you and you believe and everybody agrees with you, or you actually checked several sources, and all these sources need to be coherent, saying the same thing. Okay? So it's a humbling exercise. Okay, are we on time?
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good. We've had a couple comments pop up in the chat. Feel free, if you have a question, to also propose them in the chat. This is the time where we want to spark dialogue. We have some comments, though, from Kay Gordon, Bianca, and Vider. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name. Kay Gordon gave a quote: "Truths are illusions, which we have forgotten are illusions. They are metaphors that have become worn out and have been drained of sensuous force, coins which have lost their embossing and are now considered as metal and no longer as coins." Interesting.
Okay.
And then we also have a comment from Bianca, confirmation bias, also confirmation bias as a method of validating subjective truth. It's an interesting reflection.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the point is we are very certain of our truth, right? Oh, you are wrong and I'm right. And it's interesting to see most of us, we live under the correspondence theory of truth. And it's just hearsay, right? Oh yeah, a scientist told me, a scientist. I never checked if the guy is a real scientist or whatever. And but everybody says that he's trustworthy, so I'm gonna trust that he's right or she's right. And but the same way that we did back then, there was some kind of magician or a shaman that would say, yeah, the reality is like this. And because it's an authority, everybody look each other, say, yeah, oh, he's right. So yes, this is it. Okay. So it's a very humbling perspective on who's right, who's wrong. And the evolution, let's say, how do you change someone's mindset from the theory of correspondence to the theory of coherence? Is by providing alternative sources. The other day we had the flat earth promoter, one of the main ones, that he built a rocket to check by himself and end up dying. So he actually didn't change from correspondence to coherence. We have another example too of one of the main promoters of flat Earth that did an experiment in, I guess it was in Canada, across a lake. He shot a laser and he measured two sticks, and he pointed the laser horizontally, and the laser actually had hit the other stick, like, I don't know, 2 feet so away from what was supposed, and then he kind of realized that the Earth was rounded. Okay, so he moved from correspondence theory to coherence theory.
Mm. So we have a few more questions that popped in the chat. Speaking of the aspect of training, how do we train algorithms to navigate subjective truth? This is coming from James.
How can we train algorithms?
To navigate subjective truth.
We will talk this in knowledge and in human interests last meeting, but it's really hard because data, what you can obtain through algorithms, we will see data has no meaning, right? There's no meaning to data. If you're reading something in the data or from the data, it's not the data that is telling you this, is you're imposing this interpretation into the data. And we will have some examples, very striking examples of misinterpretation of data. And again, the algorithm is a text, right? So this kind of abstraction will, again, you can counteract the biases by being coherent, having multiple sources, and all the sources need to be at the same, or saying the same thing, or connected or coherent, right?
Mm-hmm. Another question came in, can we consider heuristic during the problem solving to believe something is truth? So specifically when designing services, what if we have equal opposing answer for a question that happens then? What happens then? Which side do we lean on?
Actually, if you have opposing answers for something, you actually can design. One of the definitions of design is building bridges between the different. You cannot design when everything says the same thing, right? The act of designing is when you combine typewriter, a camera, and sound system into one thing. So they have different purpose, and then you combine. I would be very interested in working with counter or data sets that are saying different things, right? How can we bring them or design something that will bridge them? So I don't see this as a problem. Exactly the opposite. It's an opportunity.
Okay, so we have another question that came in. Why is there so much emphasis on absolute truths? When do you think it will be commonly accepted that truth coherence is constantly being challenged or updated?
Yeah, this is the shadow that we're discussing. So we have 12,000 years of history that we were trying to find the order, right? There is an order. Everything should have the final order. And the universe is a machine like a precise machine, although very complicated. And all we need to know is to get to know this complicated machinery. And what we are understanding now is that it's the metaphor using the machinery metaphor is not a good one. But 12,000 years of habit, we're still looking for the structure, the abstraction. And again, these longing, and one of the human interests is this longing to understand the physical world, right? That transformed or was solved through the abstraction, is what led us to create religion. So in religion, imagine 12,000 years ago, was an absolute amazing, incredible step that humanity had. Other animals, they couldn't explain everything. We, by inventing this abstraction, we could explain absolutely everything. Why it's raining? Because the other wants. Why I'm here? Because the other wants. Why I'm not here? Because the other wants. Why I have this face? Because the other. We could explain everything. Okay, and always attributing this order to some external entity. So it's an incredible, it's like unbelievable achievement for an animal.
Looking at the time, and I want us to get the next section covered, so I'm going to quickly propose one last question before we move on. Coming from Dan, would you say that out of necessity we rely on correspondence as a way to navigate the world, while for a few things that matter the most to us we might rely on coherence?
Yes, out of comfort, because imagine if you had to find the coherence to everything. Like, okay, before I can dry my clothes under the sun, I need to understand if the sun is turning around us or us turning around the sun. That's what our mindsets are there for, right? So, okay, I'm filtering this out. I'm just getting the gist, which is the sun seems to be rotating around me, and I don't care if it's not. I really don't care. I just want my clothes dried under the sun. Okay, so it's out of not going crazy, right? It's actually useful.
Mm-hmm.
I trust someone, and I believe that this person has the best intentions, and I ask this person if the sun is rotating around us, or we are rotating around the sun. This person tells me that is the sun that is fixed. I'm good. I have other things to do.
Awesome. I think we all kind of relate to that. So let's move on to the next section. If there are any other questions that people have, we'll try to address it at the end.
Awesome. So let's finally get to the places of truth. So we know that truth is very contextual. It's based on perception, on social perception. And to help us discuss about the places of truth, which is initially a concept from Michel Foucault, let's ask you a question. I want you to, so this is an illustration, right? I want you to reflect what's the difference between religion, science, and art. I don't know if I give some, we will not have much time to discuss, but I really would like you to have this written down or actually position yourself to yourself. What are the difference between religion, science, and art? Are they different from each other or not? Have you all reflected? Can I move on? Yep.
Yeah, I think we're good. We have a couple reflections in the chat.
Okay. So first, let's talk about their similarities, right? So religion, science, and art, they are different tools with the same purpose, right? If we took the truth out of the way, if we clean the field to discuss about place of truth by kind of delimiting or delineating what's truth, and we know that truth is very contextual, let's say, or personal. We can say that religion, science, and art are different tools with the same purpose, okay? And this purpose is to understand us and the other. The other means everything else, right? Besides or beyond us. And to answer this question, why I exist, okay? Why I'm here? What should I do? What is life? And each one of them responds differently. So religion say, you exist because God's will. So there's an order and you're a product of this order. That's it. You're done. You got your answer? Yes, yes. Now I know why I'm here. I know I exist. Perfect. Science would say, oh, natural selection, the origins of species, and there was an atom 4 billion years ago that transformed and evolved to some compound that led to life, and now you're here. Are you okay with this? No? Yeah. You got your answer? Yes, yes. Now I know why I exist. There was a natural selection. And art also serves the same purpose, right? And there's this famous quote from Friedrich Nietzsche. This is not the actual quote. I had to squeeze or summarize the quote, but he says that a day without dancing is a wasted day. Okay, I'm here. Why I exist? You're here to appreciate the beauty, to enjoy aesthetic phenomena, and to read a good book. So in that sense, these three tools that we developed through these 12,000 years have the same purpose, to explain why we are here. Why this, okay? And again, very humbling perspective, because, wow, there are people that hate religion, and there are people that hate science, and there are people that hate art. And because they think that either religion or science or art are better than the others. And we see from this perspective that they are not. They are as valid as any other tool to explain why we exist, okay? But then again, what are the differences? what are the difference between them? If they are kind of the same tool, right? We created them, so they are kind of, they have the same origin. As all life on earth has the same DNA, they have the same DNA. They share the same DNA. Religion, science, and art were created by us, so they have the same uh, origin. So what are the differences between them? And the difference is where they place truth. Okay? From a very specific stream of research in philosophy. So they place truth. The truth is not something, it's a place. Whatever is placed in that place, position in that place, becomes truth. Okay? So based on this stream, religion, and let's talk about religion in a broad sense, right? I'm calling religion not Christian, Catholic, or Muslim. I mean, I'm not talking about the religion, the practice, okay? I'm talking the religion in terms of discourse. The religious discourse places truth outside of humans. So what is true should be true no matter what, no matter where, no matter who sees, no matter what, should always be true. Okay, this is the religion that I'm referring to. And Habermas refers to it as it, by the word it. Thing. The truth is a thing. It's something outside of us. It's like a stone. It's a physical, it's not a physical, but it's something that is beyond us. Science places truth on us. So we have the peer reviewing, the academy, the when you have an exam or defend a thesis, you have a committee that will assert that you are in the truth, okay? So science is based on placing the truth among us, okay? And you can see the correlation with the human-centeredness, that for the first time we brought the place of truth to us, okay? People usually get very, let's say, excited when you say that, oh, science is not about truth, the finding truth, right? Because science understands that it's whatever truth is defined by humans, and humans are very questionable beings. So what is important for science is always questioning, okay? Falsifiability. So the important thing that science brings to the discussion is that there's no unquestionable truth. In religion, because this truth needs to be always, no matter where, no matter how, no matter who, this truth becomes kind of unquestionable, right? If you question, it's because you don't know the truth. And then art places truth in each one of us, okay? It's what Habermas call I, the I, like the individual perception. And a good example of this is, I don't know if I love Alicia Keys and the song that she played. That's my truth. But if you don't like her music, you're not wrong. I mean, I'm not right. It's just your truth. I like this, and in the art, in the arts makes sense that people have different truths, different perceptions, right? Even there's interesting discussions about, let's say, Mona Lisa, okay? If Mona Lisa is not an object of art anymore because everybody reveres and we are all taught to uh, respect Mona Lisa, okay, Da Vinci. So the Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa is not anymore a piece of art because you're not entitled to your opinion. You cannot say, oh, I think that Mona Lisa is it's awful. I don't like it. No, you can't say this because Mona Lisa is kind of a objective truth. You need to say that Mona Lisa is a great piece of art, no matter what. Okay, so art, objects of art, should enable and actually be valid because each one of us see something different. Okay, good so far? Good? Too much, too little, too less, too fast? And I think was, again, going back to Maya, she said, I am a child of God. It's such an amazing understanding to think that the it which made trees and mountains and rivers and stars made me. So she, the way she's speaking, she sees this truth as something outside of us, okay? God is the anthropomorphic version of this objective truth, right? This truth outside of us. And that's one of, I think it's a perfect example. I wasn't aware that you were presenting the Maya video, and I had this in a rush before starting, because how can you not respect? So someone that says, oh, there's these religious people that think that there is this objective truth are not respectful. How can you not respect Maya Angelou, right? So it's a good example of humbleness. Like, you have to respect her. She is respectable. She's amazing. And she refers to the it as this outside of us truth, a truth that is valid no matter what, no matter how, no matter where. Okay? So get emotional when you see this.
Snaps.
Yeah. So anyway, what are the problems, people? Like we discussed last week, there's not a very clear line between these things, right? So you see a very strong influence of this external truth in science. And then you have this very strong influence of this common truth in art or postmodernity. So, you can't say that you don't like Mona Lisa. It's a piece of art. I can't, of course, I must be able to say that I don't like. Okay, but what you see, one example is a lot of scientists that were supposed to not accept this abstract truth tend to promote things. Says, no, you need to walk 10,000 steps per day. 10,000 steps, like what? If I live in a hilly town, 10,000 steps is the same that if I live in Savannah, that is a flat thing. 10,000 steps, like no matter the weather. How can a scientist say such a generic thing? Okay, only if this scientist is, his or her mindset is pre-modern. Okay, this scientist is looking for a truth, the definitive truth. And we saw over and over again these so-called true scientific truths being replaced from very ordinary things, like you can't drink coffee, coffee will kill you, never touch an egg, no, butter, don't, you will die if you eat butter. And then 2 years later, oh no, you have to actually drink coffee, and now you have to actually drink or eat 1 egg per day. But everybody, no matter what, needs to eat 1 egg per day. No, you need to at least have some 5 grams of butter. So again, people, it's not like this. Okay, so knowing where these truths are placed, you makes you a better interviewer, a designer, a design researcher. When you're interviewing people and you start to capture these signs, okay, this person is talking about this. If I had the privilege of chatting with Maya all the time, I would be hearing this. Okay, oh, she's talking about this abstract.
Mauricio, we have a question for clarification relative to this slide. So in this slide, you are showing human-centeredness in the postmodern period, and there's a little bit of confusion about it relative to systems centeredness from last week. Could you please?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. It's abstract centeredness was pre-modern. Okay. So I'm referring here to the influence of abstract centeredness. Human-centered was the modern era, and now it's spilling over to the postmodern. So we hear designers today talking about human-centered design. From this perspective, it's wait, hey, it ended in 1945. You're still talking about human-centered. We destroyed the earth because we were human-centered. The whole climate cataclysm was because we were human-centered. But what we are actually are fighting against is this shadow that the lightning stroking 1400, 1500 of abstractness, right? So we are still fighting the abstract paradigm, proposing a human-centered when we are already in the systems, right? So when we say, oh, we need to be human-centered, it's because we are still being crushed by, no, there's a process here in this company, and the process is no matter who, no matter what, it's the same process to everybody, no matter what. To say, no, wait, we need to be him. But it's delayed thing.
It sounds like this actually refers back to the slide when you were giving us the recap of the punctuated equilibrium, where you showed some laggard responses. And so it sounds like what you're saying is we're sort of have trails of this old ideology that visits us in the presence and is still a persistent belief, and we haven't fully transitioned forward into this newer period.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's clear from this philosophical stream that the whole climate crisis that we are facing is because we were human-centered, right? And so, and it's interesting to hear people, climate advocates, asking for human-centeredness. It's really, from this perspective, it lacks logic. It's again, correspondence theory of truth, right? It's not coherent. It's no. You should, if you're concerned about the climate and the environment, don't call for human-centeredness. Don't, right? Because this all it does is to um, um, confuse the objectives, what you have to achieve. So we see things like this. The religious perspective, if you ask like what you're doing, so let's mix everything now, right? Like how it happens. So let's say we're not among this group here, none of them are believers, okay? They are all modern people. They believe only in science, quote unquote. But you still see people that are non-believers that believe in science saying that why you're here, oh, because of nature. Again, an external process that you don't have control. And then other people say, no, 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 I have the power. I'm nurtured. Is if I read to my children every night and I pay schools and I make homework together, I will control the destiny of my children or myself. And you will see people say, no, no, it's a mix. It's nature, it's nurture, and history. So if you're, no matter if you have good genes and your parents were awesome parents, you could still be living under a racist regime and you're a black person. Or you could be living in Hiroshima and a bomb explodes. So um, um, so you still see this confusion. People say, hey, you shouldn't be saying that there's something outside of you, and you shouldn't be saying that you can control everything. It makes no sense, right? So this is the point. I am what I am because my genes, ACGT defined. Or nurture. No, I am what I am because I have the power. I can control and I have the knowledge and I can do this. I'm controlling this thing. And or which would be the postmodern. So that, yes, I'm a construction of my context. So this is very humbling, right? The most interesting thing about the postmodern paradigm is this humbleness. Like, hey, you're not that smart. You're not that important. So we killed humans, right? You're not that much. You're just, if you think you're controlling something, it's just because the system is in stasis. Your system, the context where you're living is in stasis. Okay? And then when you mix, you have awful things happening, right? So we discuss about Arbeit macht frei, which is a very modern slogan. You work and the work will make you free. Whatever you put yourself to work and you will get there. But when you mix these two, so you have the modernism, organizations theory, we have a theory of organization, technicist solutions, and then you have the final solution. So the concentration camps, the gas chambers of the Nazi were a direct product of mixing these two paradigms, not clearly. Okay, only if you mix these two paradigms, someone in their coherence, correspondence theory of truth would make this happen. And as Maya, again, magnificent Maya say, it's very easy to say, no, they were monsters. No, if a human does, any human could do. Okay, if a human is capable to become Gandhi, any human can become Gandhi. If a human is able to become Hitler, any human can become Hitler. Okay? So understanding these paradigms and this misinterpretation that they, so this is one thing that is very, very, at least for me, is very meaningful, is every time that we mixed art and religion, so the context and the word, the abstraction, we made magnificent stuff, right? The Capella Sistina, it's art and religion. When we mixed art and science, context and power, science in the sense of knowledge, again, marvelous thing. New ways of seeing the world, right? This is a perfect way to represent the human body, right? This is a perfect way to represent something that is not real. But when we mix religion and science, which means word and knowledge, word and power, there's no context. You create awful things. And some of the organizations, modern organizations, they fell trapped. They fell to this trap. They believe in knowledge, power, and processes in the sense of abstraction, right? There, we have a structure, a hierarchy, a thing, a blah, blah, blah. And this never, ever ends well. This is an example of the wall, right? No context, power, and abstraction. It never works. So this is the Chinese wall. This is the Berlin Wall. This is the southern border with Mexico wall. Whenever you try to exclude someone in whatever situation, solution that you propose that involves excluding someone is by definition wrong. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not kind or evil. It's technically wrong. It will not work, okay? So this is the point. I just want to make this last point here is the importance of this individual truth here, right? If you look back, you had always Buddha or Christ or Muhammad, you had Einstein, you had all the scientists or Picasso and all sorts of artists. They were at some point the outliers. They were not, they didn't profess abstract truth. They didn't agree with the other members. They were outliers. They had these individual truths. That's why pre-modern, postmodernity is so concerned about these outliers, diversity and inclusivity, right? Because looking back, we saw that everyone that actually was able to contribute to change the course of humanity started as a questioner, an outsider, and afterward, like everything, Einstein today is seen as a genius, but when he published the first paper, he was ridiculized. Or Picasso, right? It always starts with this one person. So that's the safety net that postmodernity proposes, saying, hey, forget this truth that's beyond us, above us. Forget this truth that is just one place of truth, and understand that each person will have a different place. So Maya, amazing Maya, it seems from the, I just watched 3 minute video, it seemed that her truth is this blue one, the one that is beyond us. I don't care. It's Maya, right? Or, I don't know, Einstein believed that the truth would be among us. Okay, that's also acceptable. And I need you to understand reality. And people, another person would love Alicia Keys and people would hate, or Beyonce or whatever, or Michael Jackson. We need this. This is important for postmodernity, okay? And now, so this is the discussion we had. I just fire up, and this is the homework. I would love for each one of you to assess this slide, Google slide, and find definitions for life, service, design, innovation, and business from these 3 different perspectives. How pre-modern, how would you classify, you find the definition of life and try to classify this definition into pre-modern, modern, and postmodern. And service, how do you define service from a pre-modern, modern, and postmodern perspective? Just to give a sense, so pre-modern will always have an order. It's linear, it's technology-based, no matter what, no matter whom, should always be the same. Modern is power, is focus, so it's not the path. It's not linear, but has a focus, and it's based on knowledge. And postmodern is holistic, contextual, co-created, nobody controls, systemic. So, and you will be able to find definitions for all of them in these 3 categories. So, and would be interesting because we will need this definition that you find to discuss knowledge and human interests. Okay? That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
These events are organized by 3 service design chapters. So we have Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta, and you can join each of our different meetups. Every chapter has its own events, so that now that everything is being done remotely, you're able to access most of them. And then finally, we have a feedback form that we would love for you to fill out so that we know how we're doing, what you want more of, what you want less of, and just feedback to know how this series is going. So thank you for sticking around. And now we are going to have the after party and the question sessions. So if you can stay, stay.
Yeah, thanks, Maria, for lending that information to everybody. We put in a link to the feedback form in the chat. We'd really appreciate, as Maria was saying, for your feedback to make events like this even better. So again, after party, completely optional. It's 8:10, sorry, I'm in Central Time. So we have about 20 minutes or so to discuss some more of these topics further, and we want to hear your voice, so feel free to come off mute at this time, or remain in the chat box if you feel more comfortable. Show your face if you'd like. And yeah, to get this started, we want to have a one-on-one with Mauricio and go over some topics that you guys might still have lingering in your minds.
I see that there was a question from Carl. Carl, I can turn it over to you if you want to ask your question live.
Mauricio, thank you very much. It was a very engaging conversation, lecture this evening. But I've run into some trouble with this notion of the postmodern world being a collection of individual truths and simultaneously being a system. And I don't know whether I should have caught that tonight or whether that will be much more clear next week, and I should look forward to that. But is there something that I'm missing so far in the work that we've gone over about how those two can exist at the same place and time?
Yeah, last class we discussed about what is a chair, as a in a nutshell, just to discuss what is a system, right? And so a system is I kind of understand what you're trying to ask, like how can we have individual truth if we are all inside the same system, right? So first, the system is emergent, depending on what do you call what are you defining as system, right? Now, we are living here many different beliefs, and the system, if you think about the system, is the life world, right? All of us together living in the same planet, and the planet is still here. So the system is it's this, right? I have to, whatever definition I have of a system needs to take into account people that have completely different beliefs and completely different views of truth. And we are still here. It didn't explode. The planet, so far, the planet didn't explode. But so there's no contradiction of having the concept of system and different truths, because we are in a system like this, right? We live in a country, in a planet of different truth. Even science changes, right? Once in a while, and changes, reinterprets what is true or not, and the system is still here so far. So there's, I understand why you're asking this, but it's actually not a deterrent. It's the system is exactly this. It emerges from different truth. You might be asking, no, but there must be an objective truth, an abstract truth that governs all. But then this is your truth, right? On my perception, there's no one order connecting everything. So,
thank you very much.
Welcome. And then that's the reflection, I guess, especially in the times we're living. And again, I think was perfect having presented Maya in the beginning, right? And she says, we sometimes, she names this as a work of God. So we were all created by God. So in her mindset, there's one single origin. And if we are all the same, she tries, and she says that she fails, to love everybody, right? In a moment like this, you want to punish people, right? And you want to get some people and really beat them a lot. But the postmodernity is, no, I need to work with them and try, like Gandhi or Martin Luther King, when they were peaceful, not because they were kind, but because they understood, no, if it's not, I cannot kill everybody that don't agree with me. This is, we tried this, it never worked. So sometimes it's really hard. You have to, we fail when we see people because they have this, and we tend to also think that people that have the coherence, that live under the coherence theory, the correspondence theory, they are lessened, right? They are less, they are ignorant. And when we perceive that we live most of the time under the correspondence theory, I said, okay, now let me understand this better. And of course, if you have this being more like concern about paying the bills, of course, when you're researching a customer, a client, and you have this refinement to see, to perceive these things, it's absolutely logic that you will be a better designer, right? I think it's even strange, like how come a designer that is supposed to create bridges between the different do not know this? Is this person like thinks that as a designer, he or she has the right solution and it's my solution, this is the solution? We'll miss the opportunity to be more even professional, right? More powerful in the sense of knowledge to shape. Why we talk about co-creation? That's something like, oh no, yeah, designers are co-creative and because they're kind and good people. No. It's not because we're the happy people. No. I'm not a nice person. I'm a person that knows that if I don't co-create, if I don't connect different people and try to understand them, my result will be wrong. It's not because I'm kind. It's not because, oh, the designish people are funny. Bring the design people. Let's have a co-creation workshop because it's funny. It's not funny. It's unavoidable. Like you cannot, from this postmodern perspective, create anything, as Schumpeter says, new and of importance, if you don't connect the dots, right? If you don't connect different people.
That's a question about that relative to history. Sankalp, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So thanks for the talk. It's very fascinating. I'm wondering if you could sketch out where you see different traditions of truth-saying and truth-seeking existing within these different places of truth.
Oh my goodness. Yes. When I showed the so you have these three places, right? Truth as this outside, external, beyond us, no matter who, no matter what. You have this, the truth is whatever we say is true, right? We have our methods, and if it passes the scientific method, it's truth. But it's still us saying that it should pass the scientific method. So it's us saying that it's true, or this individual perspective of truth. And you see, so scientists or the other day I was reading MRI brain scan literature review of more than 60,000 papers of brain scanning, right? To try to figure out which part of the brain controls which part of the body, or which part of the brain is responsible for logic, for whatever. And what was interesting, 60,000 papers, and you take like a foot, the left foot, there are the same amount of papers that say that it's controlled by the forehead. There are the same amount of papers that say that it's controlled by the back of the head. There are the same amount of papers that say that it's controlled by the left hand. And I asked the other day a neuroscientist that was visiting at SCAN and say, why this? Saying, yeah, because it's a complex system. And actually, depending how you measure, there is, if you Um, you can even find a preeminent or a better locus to control the left foot in a specific part. But if you remove another part here, you miss some part of the control of the foot. What I'm trying to tell you is that no matter if you're a scientist, you're a neuroscientist, and you're actually using an MRI to understand the human brain, you can either try to find the perfect locus to everybody, the same place, no matter what, no matter where, or you can try to find how the brains reacted to the person, or you can try to find a system inside the brain that is contextual, right? So these are the different epistemologies. It's beyond epistemology. It's almost ontology, right? The definition, what is the truth? The truth is outside, it's valid no matter what. If I don't find something that is valid to everyone, it's not truth. And it's like the norma, right? In the 50s, they did they measured, I don't know, 3,000 American women and found the perfect size for breast, for hips, for everything. And they define, it's called norma. Google and you'll find norma. Norma is a normal American woman. And once they had this perfect measurement of norma, they launched a contest to find American woman. I don't know if I'm pushing the limits, the boundaries here, but I guess it was American woman is white woman that would fit exactly in the measurements of norma. And throughout the US, they couldn't find any woman that would fit in the norma, the perfect norma. So again, it's almost an ontological thing right now. There is a perfect body for a woman. So you believe in this abstract truth, right? Or you believe, no, it would be perfect, whatever we say, it's perfect, and we can agree. It's like and I'm talking about body of a woman because it's normal misogynist story about finding the perfect body of woman, right? Of a woman. It's stupid. But back then it was not. So I don't know, Sarka, if I answered your question, but these are different ways to find the truth depending on where you place this truth, right? And the whole discussion if the truth can be found, right? Depend from a scientific perspective, you don't find anything, right? You construct you have research results. When you find, the findings of my research, it's a religious statement, right? Because the results were there ever, always, and I just uncovered. I didn't have anything to do. I was just a scientist. I didn't touch them. I didn't distort them. They were there, right? There was no whatsoever influence from my part, which I have a PhD. I don't know if you have but I've seen all sorts of research. I never saw a research that was not influenced by the researcher, ever. And I always tell my students, I try to keep your dirty fingers away from the data as much as you can, and you will not be able to. Keep it away from the data, but like an impossible task.
In relation to the homework, I see we have a few people asking about the homework, and feel free, everyone, to come off mute if you like to ask your question. I see from Ruben. Would you like to come off mute? Otherwise, I can read your question if you like.
Sure, this is pretty straightforward. You have technology aligned under pre-modern. I was just thinking that the mastery of environment feels like more of a modern thing than a pre-modern thing. So I just wanted to understand how you placed it there.
Wait, you're saying that technology as a pre-modern, right? The etymology of the word technology is techni, is art, and logos is reason, logic, right? So technology is anything that can be fully described by words, okay? Anything that you can fully describe by words is technology. And this is a pre-modern concept, okay? So I can describe jumbo jet. I can fully describe a jumbo jet, like up to the minimum micro details. I can't describe you. I can't describe Jaden. So Jaden is not a technology, okay? I'm not a technology. Ruben is not a technology. I can't fully describe you using words. Okay, we tend to, the technology of today is the digital, but it's a long way. Last time we discussed that the internet is not changing us again, right? The internet, this abstraction, is changing us. So this is a very pre-modern statement. From a postmodern perspective, we would say, no, we are, from a modern perspective, since the internet started in the modern realm, like war, right? We created the internet. And from a postmodern, it's the classic design definition, right? We design the world designs us back. So it's a more systemic approach. So, but the internet, as anyone who knows a little bit, knows that the internet is structured as highways, as paths, right? And roads. And from the first time that we connected to huts with a path, it was the internet. So internet still just another, a virtual way to connect people, roads, right? So I don't know if I was clear, Ruben. It's just the, actually technology is a pre-modern concept.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. This kind of idea of like oral traditions and discussion and people making sense together through you know, these abstract ideas and connecting them together. But,
yeah.
Well, on that note, that was a great concluding question for this session today. It is 8:30 Eastern time, and we want to be cognizant of everyone's time. You know, it's pretty late, and we're glad that you're able to come and stay after with us. These are some pretty interesting and thought-provoking conversations we've been having. So feel free to come join us next week as we conclude this 3-part series on knowledge and human interests. It's going to be happening next week at the same time. And yeah, we'd love to see you there to conclude this mindset talk.
Thank you, people.
Thank you. And feel free to fill out our feedback form. We're really interested in hearing back from you as well. We've added it to the chat, and we'll be sending out a reminder email with all this information. So thank you all. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.